You watched as your old circle chased someone flaunting designer goods and empty promises, mocking your steady approach to wealth. They chose quick riches over authenticity. Now, as your patience brings unexpected windfalls and real success, word spreads. The same ones who dismissed you now watch in silence, their messages ignored. Their mentor vanished with their money, while you sit in quiet abundance, proof that true wealth was always for those who stayed true. They were drawn to the glitter, the hype, the promises that sounded too good to be true, because deep down they always wanted the illusion more than they wanted the truth. And the moment that illusion called, they ran without hesitation. You watched them shift. You watched them idolize the fake success. You watched them fall for the fantasy, and, worst of all, you watched them think they were finally ahead of you. They sat in high-rise apartments that weren't theirs, taking pictures in someone else's penthouse. They recorded motivational videos in Airbnb mansions, talking about how they made it while quietly checking out before noon. They posted about millionaire strategies, passive income, and exclusive opportunities, but their own bank accounts were running dry, and they thought they were leaving you behind. You saw the warnings. You saw the cracks. You saw the lies underneath the surface, but you knew better than to stop them. They wouldn't listen, because the illusion had them under a spell. They convinced themselves that they were the chosen ones now, that they had outgrown your pace, your patience, your process. They didn't want to build something. They wanted to be seen having something. So they ran. They turned their backs on you for a rented lifestyle. They left a solid foundation for a house of cards. They laughed at your discipline, mocked your patience, and dismissed your vision, because in their eyes, your lack of extravagance meant you were losing. But they didn't realize what they were actually walking away from, because God was never in their illusion. He was in the slow, steady, undeniable rise that they overlooked. He was in the silent favor, the divine protection, the quiet inheritance they rejected. He was in the wealth that doesn't fade, doesn't get repossessed, doesn't disappear overnight. As they sit in the ruins of what they ran to, something shifts. They start looking back, because the fantasy collapsed. The mentor they worshipped vanished. The empire they believed in exposed as a scam, and the person they thought they left behind, you, still standing, still thriving, still receiving what was meant for you all along. And now they see it, but it's too late. They told themselves it was real. They sat in conference rooms packed with dreamers, nodding along as a self-proclaimed guru paced across the stage, selling them the life they always wanted. It was filled with promises: financial freedom, effortless wealth, a VIP lifestyle reserved only for those who believe in themselves. And they believed. They bought into the dream without hesitation because it sounded easy, too easy. They weren't being asked to build, to work, to sacrifice. They were only asked to pay. A small investment today for an endless return tomorrow. A membership fee for access to the elite. A one-time payment to unlock the secrets of the rich. They handed over their savings, their trust, their future, convinced they were stepping into something exclusive. You watched from a distance. You saw the warning signs, the forced smiles, the hollow words, the scripted success stories. You saw the ones already inside, desperately clapping, nodding, faking enthusiasm so they wouldn't have to admit they'd been played. You saw how the room was filled with dreamers, but the only ones making money were the ones selling the dream. But they didn't want to hear it, because to them you were just a doubter, a skeptic, a small thinker. They were convinced they had leveled up, that they were rubbing shoulders with the elite, that they were finally about to get rich without lifting a finger. And their mentor, a shadow in designer sunglasses, never seen without a rented luxury car parked strategically behind them. A self-proclaimed mogul, always flashing other people's wealth while subtly pressuring new recruits to invest. More, a financial genius, living off the desperation of those who wanted a shortcut. Every video, every staged moment, every testimony was designed to trap the next wave of believers, and they fell, hook, line, and sinker. They sat in seminars that felt more like performances, lights, music, motivational speeches rehearsed to perfection. They took selfies in luxury cars that weren't theirs, convinced they were manifesting their future. They spoke in hashtags, money moves, boss mindset, we up, all while their bank accounts dropped lower and lower. They thought they had outgrown you. They mocked your discipline, called you old-fashioned, told you that working hard isn't the way anymore. They rolled their eyes when you warned them. They laughed when you chose wisdom over hype. Because, in their mind, you were behind. But illusions don't last. The mentor, gone. The promises, unfulfilled. The VIP circle, a revolving door of the broke trying to look rich. And the moment the truth sank in, the moment they realized they had been scammed, drained, and discarded, one thought hit them harder than anything else. You were right. They ignored the foundation you built for the mirage that disappeared overnight. They traded stability for a sinking ship. They ran toward a fantasy and left what was real. They watch you from the outside, standing in the mess of what they chose, wishing they had never walked away. They had everything they needed, but it wasn't enough. You offered something solid, something proven, something that would grow over time. You laid down a path built on wisdom, consistency, and integrity, but they weren't interested in anything that took time. They didn't want to build, they wanted to arrive. You watched them shift, impatient, restless, searching for a shortcut. You saw the way their eyes lit up at flashy success stories, the way they whispered about people making millions overnight. You heard their tone change, their words laced with a smug confidence, convinced they had discovered a better way. And suddenly, what you were doing looked too small to them. They didn't say it out loud, but you felt it, the way they stopped listening when you spoke about long-term growth. The way they rolled their eyes when you talked about patience and wisdom, the way they kept looking over their shoulder, comparing your steady progress to the overnight riches they saw on social media. And then they made their choice. They emptied everything they had into someone else's hands. They cashed out their savings, convinced they were investing in something bigger. They walked away from stability, convinced it was too slow. You let them go. You didn't argue. You didn't beg. You didn't waste time trying to prove yourself. Because you knew something they didn't. What's built in truth will always outlast what's built in deception. They were too blinded by hype, status, and fast money to understand that quick success without a foundation always collapses. They thought they were stepping into a world of endless opportunity, but in reality, they had just walked into a trap. The first few months, they flexed their new reality: fancy dinners, hotel rooms with city views, business calls filled with empty jargon. They convinced themselves they had arrived, but you knew what was coming. The cracks always show, the hype always fades, the illusion always breaks. And when it did, they had nothing left. Because while they were chasing something that was never real, you were securing something that could never be taken away. While they were gambling on promises that had no foundation, you were planting seeds that would last for generations. They stand in the ruins of their own choices, and look at you. Still standing, still growing, still untouched. They can't go back. because what they walked away from is something they can never have again. At first, they ignored the signs. They didn't want to admit something felt off. The money was supposed to come in by now. The investment was supposed to pay off. The passive income was supposed to flow effortlessly. But instead, excuses, delays, red flags disguised as temporary setbacks. You saw it coming. You saw the illusion start to fray at the edges. They convinced themselves it was just a slow month. They told themselves to trust the process. They reassured each other with empty affirmations. Big things are coming. Just wait. But they waited, and nothing came. The mentor who once answered every call started getting harder to reach. The weekly team meetings became less frequent, more vague. The payout dates kept getting pushed further and further back, until no one even mentioned them anymore. The empire they ran to, the one they abandoned everything for. It wasn't just crumbling, it was never real to begin with. They scroll through the influencers page, searching for reassurance, but the posts feel different now. Something forced, something off. The captions are still dripping in luxury, but the energy isn't the same. The mentor still flashes wealth, but it's not as loud anymore. The promises are still being made, but not to them, because now they're on the outside. They aren't the fresh recruits anymore. They aren't the ones being showered with attention anymore. They aren't useful anymore. The mentor has moved on. New faces fill the retreats and masterminds. New recruits get the spotlight and praise. New money is funding the illusion. They're just left behind with nothing but regret and debt. And now, let us take a brief moment to honor the chosen among us. Here's to the ones who see the world differently, the silent guardians, the watchful souls, always awake, always vigilant. They don't fit the mold, and they wouldn't have it any other way. While others walk familiar paths, they forge their own, fighting unseen battles, illuminating the shadows. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But if you feel it, deep within, you'll know this is meant for you. No masks, no pretense, just truth. The Obsidian Inner Order is here, a place where kindred spirits gather to share wisdom, to connect, to transform. Over 450 strong, united not by conformity, but by purpose. If you're ready, you know where to find us. The link is in the description. If not, that's perfectly fine, because we're always here, watching over, making a difference in ways unseen. Here's to those who walk their own path, not for recognition, but because it's who they are. Here's to you. Thank you. They ran towards something loud, something dazzling, something that promised instant results. They believed success was about appearances, who looked like they had it, who could fake it long enough to convince others. You stayed quiet. You stayed planted. You didn't chase. You didn't scramble. You didn't try to prove yourself. Because you understood something they never could. What is truly meant for you cannot be taken, cannot be rushed, and cannot be lost. What you were securing wasn't just money. It was something far greater. They thought wealth was about fast cars, designer logos, and private jets they couldn't afford to fuel. But the inheritance God was preparing for you, its influence, its divine protection, its supernatural wisdom, it's a favor that cannot be bought. And while they were chasing smoke, you were stepping into a reality they'll never have access to. Because real wealth doesn't fade when trends shift. Real success doesn't collapse when the hype dies down. Real inheritance flows from God. It isn't manipulated, forced, or faked. And while they were running in circles, desperate to keep up appearances, something started happening for you. Doors began to open without you having to knock. Not because you begged, not because you schemed, but because divine timing was in motion. You walked into places they could never enter, because favor granted you access. You received what they worked endlessly for, because provision was already written in your path. You found stability in places they overlooked, because you were never building for a moment, you were building for a lifetime. This isn't theory. This isn't wishful thinking. This isn't luck. This is real. And if you've been walking in it, you already know. At first it feels subtle, almost effortless. People start paying attention to you, not because you're chasing them, but because your presence commands it. You step into rooms, and the right people notice you, the right doors open, and the right conversations begin. You don't have to force it. You don't have to manipulate your way in. Because God's inheritance doesn't require you to beg. The connections you once struggled to make, the relationships you once had to prove yourself to, the recognition you thought you had to fight for, they find you instead. And just when you think you're about to run out, just when you feel like you might be lacking something, just when the world would expect you to be desperate, resources appear, not from the people you expected, not from the places you thought they would come from, not in the way the world tells you to go and secure the bag, but through unexpected sources, divine provision that makes no logical sense. The bill gets covered. The right job finds you. The funding you need appears without you having to sell your soul for it. And while they were out compromising for opportunities, you received ones that aligned perfectly with your gifts. Because favor doesn't require sacrifice, it requires obedience. The world tells you, take what you can get. God tells you, wait, I have something better. And when you wait, the opportunity that comes doesn't demand you to shrink yourself. It doesn't ask you to betray your values. It doesn't require you to become someone you're not. It fits exactly who you were created to be. And then the supernatural protection kicks in. The same ones who plotted against you, the same ones who secretly hoped you would fail, the same ones who spoke against your name. They can't touch you. They try, but their attacks don't land. They scheme, but every plan falls apart. They lie, but the truth keeps exposing them, because God's inheritance comes with a shield. They wake up one day, open their phone, and everything feels different. Something is off. Something is missing. Something they never thought would happen, just did. The one they worshipped, the entrepreneur, the influencer, the business guru, has vanished. No more luxury trips, no more rented Lamborghinis, no more motivational speeches about financial freedom. The daily posts flexing a millionaire lifestyle, gone. The comments hyping up the next big thing, silent. The glamorous success stories, revealed as nothing but staged lies. And for the first time, reality sets in. They check the chats, the emails, the private groups. They scroll through their messages, looking for reassurance, looking for someone to tell them this is just a misunderstanding. But the messages aren't being answered. The refund requests are piling up. The people who were once praising the guru, now they're exposing the scam. It hits them like a gut punch. They were played. They were used. They were just another pawn in someone else's game, and they left you behind for this. They mocked your wisdom. They ignored your warnings. They thought you were too slow, too old-fashioned, too blind to see the new way to get rich. But who's standing now? You. Who's losing everything? Them. They ran toward a sinking ship, thinking they had outgrown you. They thought they were moving up, but they were just moving toward disaster. They thought they were winning, but the moment they looked around, all they saw was wreckage. The guru disappeared. The fortune they were promised never existed. The future they believed in shattered, and you are still standing. They tried to move on, but your name keeps coming up. Your success isn't loud, but it doesn't have to be. It's felt, it's undeniable, and worst of all, for them, it's everywhere. They hear whispers about you in rooms they can't enter. They see your work being praised by people they once tried to impress. They scroll through your updates, rereading messages they once ignored. And regret, it sinks deep. They thought they had leveled up when they walked away. They thought they had outgrown you when they chased the illusion. They thought you would always be in the same place. But the reality? They left you for a fantasy, and now that it's gone, all they can do is watch you win. They tell themselves they aren't bothered, that it's just coincidence, that they'll find their own way back. But you can feel it, their eyes on you, their silent regret, their realization that they lost something they will never get back. And then you get the message. It starts casual, a soft opening, a testing of the waters. Hey, been thinking about what we talked about before. I really see now what you meant. Hope you're doing well. You read it once, then again. You know exactly what this is. They aren't reaching out because they miss you. They aren't apologizing because they've changed. They aren't reconnecting because they finally respect your vision. They just have nowhere else to go. They watched everything crumble, and now they need a lifeline. At first, they act like nothing happened, like they never mocked your patience, like they never chose deception over truth, like they never turned their back on you. They start liking your posts again. They drop little comments of support. They bring up inside jokes like no time has passed. And then the real motive slips through. We should catch up. We should build together. We could do amazing things if we just reconnect. They forgot one thing. They didn't just leave. They laughed at you. They doubted you. They chose their side. That side has nothing left to offer them. But what? They don't realize you don't either. The door they walked away from, it's locked. The bridge they burned, it's gone. And the future they thought they could return to, it no longer includes them. They don't get it. They think they can just walk back in, slide into your life like nothing happened. They assume you've been waiting, that you'd still have space for them, that they could pick up where they left off. But what they don't realize, the door has already closed. They didn't just walk away, they rejected their inheritance. They didn't just choose another path, they mocked the one that was divinely set for them. And when favor moves, it does not wait. They thought you would always be an option. They thought they could return whenever they felt like it. They thought grace had no expiration date, but what they assumed would be waiting for them, gone. The opportunities, no longer theirs. The access, revoked. The position next to you, filled. They try knocking, they try forcing their way in, but the door that once stood wide open has been sealed shut. All they can do is stand outside and watch you walk into everything they turned their back on. Look at where you are. You walk in stability, influence, and supernatural provision. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't force. What's meant for you flows effortlessly. Your wealth isn't just money, it's peace. Your success isn't just status, it's wisdom. Your power isn't just what you have, it's who you are. They are stuck, restless, anxious, regretful, haunted by their own choices. They wanted the world to see them winning. Now, the world watches them lose. They ran toward the illusion of wealth. Now they have nothing. One path led to real prosperity, the other led to destruction. They thought they had time to play both sides. But favor doesn't wait. They watch you from the outside, knowing the truth they refuse to accept. You were never behind. You were always ahead. There is no catching up. They thought they had time, that they could walk away, chase illusions, and return when it was convenient. They thought you would wait. But favor doesn't stall for the indecisive. It moves, it shifts, it closes doors behind those who reject it. You moved with it. You didn't beg them to stay. You didn't waste your breath convincing them of what was already true. You let them go, knowing not everyone is meant to follow you into the next season. And now they realize the cost. They see your success, but can't touch it. They see your elevation, but can't reach it. They see your favor, but can't stand in it. They watch from the outside, desperate for a way back in, but the truth is undeniable. They lost you, for good. They ran toward nothing. You walked into everything. Tell your story. Who left, and when did they realize it was too late? Let them feel the weight of what they lost.